Okay, well, I guess I'll do my last little spiel here. We were
Sure.
talking about God-based morality and what could be wrong with God-based morality. And the third thing
What could be right with it?
What could be right with it? Right. Well, the third thing I wanted to point out is that God-based moralities very often promote a broken model of the world that inhibits effective action. Okay, so for example, in the case of a natural disaster, we have a tsunami or we have an earthquake or whatever, everybody comes out and says, God this, they're punishing so-and-so. And if God is punishing somebody with this supernatural act, this act of God, as they call it, why would you rush in to help? Why would you piss off your God, right? Why would you help these people out if the supreme creator of the universe thought that these people should be trashed?
Yeah.
Right? So you doing so, you might anger God, right? There was a similar thinking with lightning rods. It's like, well, lightning is God's choosing he is showing his anger at somebody, and if you put up a lightning rod, it's blasphemous, right? And eventually they kind of all turned around, and all the churches now have lightning rods. It's like,
Yeah.
Oops, maybe they were wrong on that. With prayer, I think prayer is like masturbation. It only makes you feel good. Prayer is for, okay, we've had a couple examples here recently where parents had sick children and they prayed for the kids and did nothing medically for those kids, and the kids died.
You know, the other way that it's like masturbation is that you should do it at home
In your closet.
and not in public schools. Or at least go to the bathroom.
Right, hide out somewhere, right? So this notion that prayer is helpful is wrong. It's been proven wrong. There's a big study done by the Templeton Foundation, which incidentally is religiously funded, to prove that prayer does nothing. Prayer has no effect in the real world. And so if you're relying on prayer to heal yourself or you heal your sick kid, it's a crapshoot. You're going to get what you're going to get without God, because God isn't there. And if you kill your children doing this, then maybe you deserve to go to jail, or maybe your church needs to be shut down for promoting the false crap. It's not a charity. Okay, so that's prayer. So here's another one. If our bodies are just soul traps, are just containers for soul, where the purpose is to release our soul so that it can go be with God and glory, glory, hallelujah, then death is no big deal. Killing is not so bad. Killing a body is no big deal. So therefore, you end up devaluing human life based on this supernatural concept. We have 3 examples of the suppression of science. I'll hit those real quick. We have Galileo, and his looking up at the stars was blasphemy because you're looking up God's skirt or whatever, and you're not allowed to look at that. But it turned out that he had some views of the solar system that were challenging the dogma, right? And because we go out and look at the solar system and look at reality for what it is, we've learned a lot more than we ever could have learned from a holy book. We learned nothing from a holy book. Promotion of intelligent design, this Ben Stein movie, right? Intelligent design opens the door for God, right? It allows you to believe in God, but it doesn't help mankind at all, right? It has given us no scientific predictions, no scientific papers out of it, no results of any benefit to mankind. No technologies have come from it. No lives have been saved. No crops have been aided by it. So it's totally useless. So if you teach intelligent design, or you open that door instead of something real, something that benefits people, you're wasting the time. You're effectively shooting yourself in the foot. And that's one of the reasons we object for it, is it has no value whatsoever, except it opens the door for God. And who needs God? Cloning and stem cell research. If cells are human beings or have souls and they're more important than real human beings, then you're going to make bad decisions that are going to harm real human beings. One solution to the stem cell thing is to label the cures that comes out of stem cell research and the people who are opposed to it, and make sure they don't come in contact with each other. Very simple solution, right? So people who are against stem cell research don't get any benefit from it. it seems perfectly okay with me, and let everybody else benefit from it. So that's some of the suppression of science. Another thing that comes out of this religion is the notion that suffering is somehow a virtue, right? We're all fawning over the suffering of Jesus, or Mother Teresa really was kind of a sadist. She ran a so-called clinic that basically people came in to die, and they were led there to suffer. Now, people thought somehow that she was doing good and gave her a bunch of money. So she had millions of dollars in the bank, and she was withholding any analgesics or any cures for these people, and she was in there thinking this is just the greatest thing in the world. They're getting kisses from Jesus, and they're dying in pain, and boy, isn't this wonderful. And I think that's really twisted. I think that's very twisted. And Mother Teresa, if you think she was doing good, you better take another look at that.
Well, without fail, every time I not to be pick on Christianity Day, although
we've hit Islam on a few things.
More often than not, it's the one we're familiar with. It's the one that callers are referencing, and so I have no problem at all banging on it. But inevitably, when I talk to Christians who claim that they are so for moral reasons, what I find is that they have this incredibly twisted sense of what is moral and what is not moral. It is, just obscene in some areas and absurd in others. And we had a young lady write in on the website, and we got to talking about this, and one of the things she brought up was that she didn't want to live in a world where, people got away with things. Those who did wrong needed to be punished. Those people who were, pedophiles, they needed to be punished. And since man's law is fallible and some people will escape that punishment, she instead preferred to believe Christianity, where those people are going to be judged. Sorry, but not only is that a stupid reason for believing something, because it says nothing about whether or not it's true. The world you want to live in or what you find comfortable has no bearing on what world you're really living in. But when you adopted that particular religion, you gave up any hope of justice, because those same pedophiles that have escaped man's law get to escape God's law too. They're all eligible for an eternity in paradise. All they have to do is repent, be saved, do whatever the requirement is for salvation. And meanwhile, those people get to go on to eternal paradise, and people like me are either punished forever or destroyed because we don't believe, because there's one and only one unforgivable sin, and that's doubt. That's a thought crime. There's no justice in this system. What you have is capriciousness. What you have is arbitrary. A God picks and chooses who it's going to save based on, in some cases, on deeds, and in some cases on faith, and in some cases on, what day of the week is it. Whatever kind of arbitrary decision can be made. I wrote something that I read on the nonprofits that I'm not going to read today. It's entirely too long. But there were some points made in there. You haven't if you've accepted, like Christianity, on a sense of justice, you haven't accepted a cosmic sense of justice that alleviates the problem. You've accepted one that you believe alleviates the problem for you. It's a selfish justification that shows no regard for real matters of justice. It's the height of arrogance and your desire to feel special because somebody up there thinks you're special. Well, according to the paradigm you advocate, he thinks anyone willing to worship him is special, with no regard for justice or character. That's the whole system. Don't pretend like there's justice here. It's a favoritism club thing, and you're on the inside because you're special. But don't pretend like that there's some divine justice to this, because there's not. It's insane. There are mass murderers that, according to your belief system, are enjoying paradise forever, while good people who simply didn't believe or believed wrongly are roasting forever. It's not justice. It's crazy.
That's sucking up to power is what it is, right?
Ooh, you are so big. Ooh, you are. Let me worship you, please. I want to be a slave.
Right.
That's what you are. You're sacrificing your own mental freedom and your own ability to make decisions and your own ability to determine what is true morality and what isn't. And you're giving all that up so you can be a slave. And you want to be a slave, evidently, forever. Because I can't think of any redeeming quality about a heaven where you're, spending eternity in servility. But,
Yeah. So that was Be Curious on our website?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I tussled with him or her for quite a while myself and got frustrated.
Yeah.
So we have a little bulletin board on our website that people can, without much entry fee, come and
The post is really
post your comments and that sort of thing. But there's some interesting reading there. So let me wrap this up, and then we can go back to callers.
Okay.
We were talking about, God-based morality gives you a broken model of the world, and I just can't touch this broken model of the world without hitting an article that I've plugged a number of times. It's called Cross-National Correlations of Quantifiable Societal Health with Popular Religiosity and Secularism in the Prosperous Democracies.
Which is a really long-winded way of saying, is there any evidence that religion does anything really good for society?
Right. So it looks at different societies and their rates of religious belief and their rates of various social ills like homicides, youth suicide, infant mortality, life expectancy, STDs, abortions, and teen pregnancies. And what you find when you look at this is that secular societies do better on all these things than religious societies. So this really begs the question of, if you've got God, this omniscient God that wants all this good stuff to happen on your side, and you can talk with him and all of these things, why aren't religious-based societies much better off? Why is it the case that these secular societies that are using reason and puzzling things out and going after things directly and using logic and science, why do they do so much better? So I just have to ask that question. I'm going to ask that every couple months or so, and hopefully somebody sometime will answer that for me. I call me up and answer it. So having a broken model of the world stands in the way of reason, stands in the way of effective decision making, of actually doing moral action once you decide to do it. So it inhibits your ability to solve the problems that you're really trying to solve. So to wrap up here, religious-based moralities, they're arbitrary, and therefore they're like con games, and they're used as con games very often. They create a conflict of interest with human needs with a pretend or real God, and they're based on a broken model of the world that inhibits moral action. So when somebody asks me, how can you be moral without God, I want to answer back, how can we be moral with all these problems with religious-based moralities? So.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a God-based moral system that you think is, better or flawless or whatever, I'd love to know about it.